Is there regulation from the FDA on imported drugs from China or imported components from China?
Uh, yes, there is a for part of that. Yes, the FDA has the gold standard, and what they do is they inspect these manufacturing plants where our medicines are made because you can learn so much. And there's very detailed specifications. Like if you and I wanted to all set up a drug manufacturing plant, think about it. Every single product, every single pill, every vial has to be exactly right within very narrow specifications. And so they will conduct inspections of plants, but they're not, as I mentioned, there haven't been any inspections done mostly in the past year because of COVID. They want to keep their employees safe. And there was just a report that came out saying, well, FDA might be doing evaluations by Zoom. I mean, you can't, and it's like if you're in a plane, if you're in an airplane crash and you're going to send the NTSB guys, no, you're not going to send them. You're going to have them go inspect the accident scene by Zoom. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
The other thing I predicted is the FDA's ability to protect the American public is just basically going down the tube, and especially in China. Because do you guys, any of you want to be the one person, the dedicated inspector, very talented people that travels there and hope you don't get an anal swab for COVID and says, comes back with a report that says this plant has some real problems. Do you think China's going to give you a visa next time?
Well, speaking of that, there was U.S. intelligence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where some are saying the coronavirus may have leaked from, it had known safety issues. And yet, the U.S. was partially funding coronavirus research there. The lead doctor there had traveled to the U.S. and done research with American universities. So we can't protect ourselves from China dominating the supply chain, but we can give all of this money to, am I wrong in saying the enemy? I don't know.
Well, there's that. And if you want, we can take it further. NIH, the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Disease, and it's all focused on vaccines. It was shocking to hear testimony of Dr. Fauci when he was asked about, well, what about our antibiotics? And as I recall, if my memory's correct, he said something about, well, I've recently learned about this, about us not being so dependent on other countries. And I'm thinking, head of the National Institute, whoever it is, of allergy and infectious disease, and you're not concerned about where the generic antibiotics are coming from during a pandemic? And that was the other thing. Why did it take someone like me as a private citizen to put this out there that, no question, has influenced legislation that's been introduced in Congress by both sides of the House and both parties? Because there are special interests that want to keep the whole darn thing quiet. So who's looking out for us? And we're going to have to pick it up and just do it ourselves.
Is it possible to know for American consumers where the drugs are made or where the ingredients are made? Like, I could see that obviously if the blood pressure medication itself is made in China, like, then you might know. But like, if it's just the ascorbic acid or like some other like ingredient that goes into like another drug that may not be made in China itself, but like the ingredients are
Or your
like
fortified cereal.
like is there a way to know where the ingredients come from?
You can get some information, and I write about that in China RX in an appendix, where to find out where your drugs are made. And for your viewers and listeners, they can go to a website called Daily Med. Just Google Daily Med. And up will come up is a website that's actually hosted by the National Library of Medicine, which is part of the National Institutes of Health, or NIH. And you just type in the name of in the search box, the name of your medicine. And up will come is a list of all the companies that either make it, distribute it, or repackage it. And you can see there's pictures of the labels. And it's really interesting. Major US companies don't want to put made in China on their labels. But Chinese domestic companies are very proud to put on their label. And by the way, more than 10% of our generic drugs now are being made in China by Chinese companies. And that is growing very fast. So they're very proud to put in made in China. And so you can find that by going to Daily Med. Now, if you find other companies, major US companies that don't want to put their country of origin because they're embarrassed, they don't want the public to know, call them up and ask them. Some will tell you, and some will not. I remember when I was writing China RX, this is where I knew I was kind of over the target. I called up this one company that was making an AIDS drug, and a generic, and I said, "So, can you tell me where it's made?" And a very nice young woman sent me all around here, there, and I called her back and said, "They just aren't telling me." And she says, "Well, I have it right here. I can get in trouble for telling you this." And she told me it was made in China. Think about that. And I said, this is where I knew that there was something going on here, that we're just throwing people under the bus.
Well, so you mentioned many shocking things. Tell us some of these shocking things. I want to know how bad it is.
More than what we've already
more. Like if you said there's lots of shocking things. Take us down the rabbit hole.
I mean, U.S. military.
Oh boy.
The men and women in the South China Sea. It's insane. Remember the anthrax attacks?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in New York. You guys are in New York. I had events there with the news organizations. In D.C., had office buildings and congressional office buildings. Well, one of the antidotes to anthrax exposure is an antibiotic called doxycycline. You might have heard about that if people have Lyme disease or other things. It's a pretty common antibiotic. Well, back in 2001, we couldn't make it here. So the federal government had to buy millions of doses by going to a European company, very good company. I interviewed the CEO, and he said he had to get the starting material from a plant in China. Mm-hmm. So imagine if you're the anthrax attacker. I go up and I say this on Capitol Hill. I said, this is you guys. We need to bring antibiotic production back to the U.S. And the other thing I learned is, people say, why don't we just get our medicines from India? They're a big generic maker. The other shocker was how much India depends on China for these core components. They depend on China for about 70% of what they need for their entire generic industry. So it's so centralized. We got to fix it.